All right.
Okay.
So, hi, Angela. This is Angela Lee.
Hey, Nicole.
Hi. I'm so thankful to have you on today. So, I'm going to give there's so many great things to talk about when we talk about you. So, if I miss anything, let me know. So Angela Lee has had a very interesting career, and you can tell us about the things that led you to where you are now. But the pieces that I think are so incredible. Right now, you are Assistant Dean of Teaching Excellence at Columbia's Business School. And then
Yep.
you're also the founder of 37 Angels, which is the piece I really want us to focus on today.
Sure.
And I can go and explain 37 Angels, and it's probably best if you do, because you created it. And
Yeah.
tell us a little bit also about what you're doing with the school as well.
Yeah. So what I'm doing at the school, it's easier to describe. I focus on two things. I focus on making the curriculum more integrated so that students feel like when they walk into business school and when they leave, that they didn't just take 20 amazing classes, but they really got an end-to-end two-year curriculum that's going to prepare them to be business leaders. And then I also work on making the faculty more effective in the classroom. And so the most amazing content in the world, unfortunately, will fall flat if a person can't deliver it. And so I work on the curriculum and the instruction. That's what I do there. And I teach a couple courses as well.
So that piece is interesting because often in school, the education is very different than out of school, because the people facilitating are not necessarily the ones feet on the street and killing themselves within a startup. So I love that you're actually making it experiential based on, real life, real deal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
okay,
I love it. It's amazing.
tell us about 37 Angels, and you might even do the lead in terms of, so one of the things that's very interesting, at least to me, when you look at leverage is what are those little points that might have shifted your experience? And it could have been a person, it could have been a relationship, it could have been, so what made you decide you wanted to do this? And, tell us about the impetus behind it, and then what it is today.
Yeah, I think stories are always so much cleaner in retrospect. 37 Angels was a little bit of a love of a lot of things that I really enjoy doing. First and foremost, which is educating. To me, 37 Angels is an education platform. We train women on how to invest in early stage companies. And it's both an art and a science. And I wanted to bring together the education component, the entrepreneurial background that I had. I've started several companies, two in the ed tech space. And then the fact that I wanted to really create a platform to close the gender gap in a space that I think desperately needs more women. Plus, it just happened to be the right time. I mean, I feel like it's like the year of the woman, and it's a really fun time to be having this dialogue and to have a seat at the table. So that's how 37 Angels got created. We're pretty much exactly 2 years old. We've invested
I thought you guys were forever.
No. We look at, 2,000 to 2,500 companies a year. We just invested in our 25th company, and it's been a lot of fun.
So, because I saw that you're getting like 2,000 applicants a year or so, and then the companies that you funded, I took a look at some of them. They looked incredible, and you're funding women and men-led companies, right?
Yeah, and very much by definition. There's both a practical aspect, and I think for me also a mission-driven aspect of it. So from a practical standpoint, the reality is that there's a lot of people specifically focusing on women entrepreneurs, and frankly, I like to go where I can have the most impact and where we can have a unique value proposition. I believe right now we're the only group that is female investors, but gender neutral on the entrepreneur. So that's one. It's just, I think it's a unique space to be in. But I think even more importantly, I thought it was really important for what I call to remove the asterisks away from investing in women, right? I wanted us to be known for savvy investors. I wanted us to be known for a really transparent process, for incredibly transparent and efficient working relationships. That's what I want us to be known for. And to me, I want to invest in the best and brightest entrepreneurs.
Which can be absolutely across the board. And the pieces that you just mentioned could be considered more of a holistic male-female way to lead. And so in terms of, maybe not, so in terms of the education piece and being able to support these angels in going after the best deals, you've also created an angels in training program as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about that. How many women actually go through it, and what it is that you teach them?
So, yeah. So each cohort's quite small. It's only 8 to 10 women at a time because it's a pretty intensive, very experiential environment. And you go through the entire deal process. So what do you look for in a deal? How do you conduct diligence? How do you value a company that has no customers and no revenue? What the heck are these crazy term sheets? What do you do after the investment? And you go through this very experiential boot camp, at the end of which you invest in a real company. And the way that the program is done is you learn how to do something, you then do it, and then you discuss with very experienced investors along the way. And I very much believe in learning by doing. And
absolutely.
Especially angel investing is something that's very hard to learn about reading in a book.
Absolutely. Experiential learning is what sticks. And I feel like that, in the same way that being an entrepreneur maybe a decade ago, you were just blinders and you were siloed, you had nobody to talk to. I would think the same is true in angel investing, but to actually have women as peers that are going through it at the same time, and then to learn and be able to execute and have the follow-up to see, what did we really learn? Yeah. So one of the things that that I focus on with companies often is all around mindset, and how being able to believe that you are an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing salesperson, that will shift how you show up in negotiations, in the room, everything. So is there an element where these women might be showing up having never done it before, with a belief about what angel investing is or how they are with it? And is there a tweak, or is there some piece that you give them to support them in having, this new identity as an investor?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a couple of ways to come at that kind of mindset gap of like, oh, I'm not qualified to be an angel investor. So I'll start with a study because I like data. And they did a Harvard Business School study years ago, and it showed that men were 40 to 50% more likely to apply for a job that they're underqualified for. And guess what? Everyone is underqualified to be an angel investor. And so I had one of two choices. One, I make women more confident as angel investors. I've actually gone the other way, which is what I've done is I've demystified it. And instead of what I've said is nobody knows what they're doing. And so you don't either. That's okay. These guys don't know what they're doing. People who've been doing it for 20 years don't know what they're doing. And I think by definition, angel investing is something that you're investing in disruptive technology, cutting edge stuff. You're investing in companies that have been around for 6 months. By definition, you don't know what you're doing. And I think for me, it's not so much bolstering the confidence, it's demystifying the fact that there is a special sauce and it's not. It is about pattern recognition. It is about gut-driven investing. A lot of it for me was demystifying the process and just making it very clear and taking people through the process once and saying, hey, you know what, you can do this too.
I think that's so interesting to be able to give people permission as well. Like, and especially when you look at investing in any kind of startups and the percentage that fail, but you're going through teaching them, these are the different pieces that are going to support you in being a better investor. And we're all, I like to say, do you know about, I know you work at Columbia, but have you ever heard of the School of MSU? Do you know
No.
You don't? You haven't graduated from it? So the School of MSU is the school of making shit up, right? And so
I love it. Yes.
And so what I talk about when I work with people is that if you're going to graduate from the school of making shit up, and we're making stuff up about ourselves all the time, then we can either sell ourselves on why we can or why we can't. And so being able to own your identity as successful angel investors, one, to receive permission from someone like you that, you know what, none of us really know what's going on, and go get the tools, the pieces that are going to support you in having more of a framework and knowledge, and let go of your belief that everybody knows what's going on, because
it's like nobody thinks they're an adult, right? Like none of us are feel like we're grown-ups yet, but guess what? We all are. We're all kind of making it up. And
I don't want to be Are we really grown-ups? Oh no, that sounds terrible. So another question. So because 37 Angels is women-led, is there any specific component that you think you bring to angel investing as a whole? Like, is there a piece that's maybe a little bit different you lead differently or you approach investments differently because you're women-led?
I'm always conflicted as to how to answer this question. I can tell you our brand in the marketplace and how we're differentiated. I don't know if I can answer if it's because we're women-led. I would say the things that consistently get said about our network, super efficient, super transparent, super collaborative. Those three words are consistently described about us. And maybe the third one, collaborative, you could say that there's a relationship to that towards women. I don't know that transparent and efficient, I don't know, I think is the answer. And I kind of like it that I don't know, in the sense that I want to be known for being an awesome, efficient, transparent, collaborative network. I don't want to be known as a network of women investors. And I think what pleases me is the first thing that comes to mind for people is those words. It's not, hey, talk to them because they're women. And I think that, to me, is success.
I love your answer, because what you're talking about is, companies creating amazing culture, flat, transparent, no hype. And why not do that in your network? Why not do that in your angel?
Exactly.
Why not? I love that you go there. So do you ever have any frustrations with being a woman entrepreneur? Or
never.
None.
None.
In school. So as, one, is there anything that ever does show up? And if it does, have you figured out some kind of workaround or way to?
I think just the assumption that we're different, right? And so, like, every mommy product, every beauty tech app, every style app, we get sent that literally by like 18 people over. And the funny thing is, I'm sure male investors don't only get sent like the Dollar Shave Store or like Thai Birch, or whatever the case may be. And it's just, there is a little bit of an assumption that like, oh, you guys will be interested in this because you're women. I mean, I don't know if it's quite risen to the level of frustration. I'm amused by it at this point. I think, and then the other thing is that when I do go to like a room of investors or a room of entrepreneurs, and I'm always like, and they're like, oh, you should talk to Angela because she's a woman. And again, I want you to say, talk to Angela because she's a great ed tech investor, or talk to Angela because she knows pharmaceuticals really well. Not talk to her because she's a woman, right? Like, that shouldn't be the most differentiating aspect of me. And so I think, I definitely get that time and time again.
So you have 2,000 entrepreneurs. You have all these people that are sending you their decks. They want investment. So if there was one thing that you were going to tell an entrepreneur to focus on, like, what's that one lever point that when you see it, you know that this is someone, we definitely are interested in? Or what should you tell them to focus on? Like, is there one lever point that investors respond to more than others?
Yeah. I mean, I think a big mistake that I make is entrepreneurs over and over, and I'm talking more about pitching specifically, less about running the business, although I have a lot to say about that as well. But when it comes to pitching, I always tell entrepreneurs, pitch the company, not the product. And what I mean by that is entrepreneurs and investors, we get really excited about the thing, right? Like the widget, the app, the technology. At the end of the day, that's not what ends up winning, right? It's the company and everything surrounding it. So it's the business model, it's the people, it's the thought, it's the partnerships. And I feel like people just pitch whatever that thing is. And I just always want to say, like, you have to think bigger. And both as an investor and an entrepreneur, we just get too excited about the product. And I want all of us to realize that we're investing in a company, not the product or the idea.
And so do you also think, one of the things that I've seen work is that if you really understand what's in it for me, like what's in it for them, then you direct the messaging that way. And so I hear you, it's not just about the product, it's about, I see this all the time, the team is like one of the top things. But if you're presenting to a certain investor group, like I heard you say that pharmaceuticals, ed tech, like there are places that you probably know or resonate with, by shifting the pitch or the presentation, or just going after the right people that align. But also, is there a specific component, like when you've heard people that are much more conscious of the things that you're going to respond to, does that land? Does it resonate? Or have you even seen anyone like that really goes there, or is it kind of flat across the board, they're presenting based on the general presentation? Or do they know you? Have they like looked into?
Yeah. So I think that certainly industry and sector focuses that there is something around doing your research around the investor. So like, don't pitch us clean tech. We're not going to look at it. that is true, but I would argue that like a good pitcher is a good pitcher, and it's them knowing the fundamentals of what to present. And I don't know that. I think it's important for them to know when to talk to the right investor. Like, are they super early? Is this an investor who wants to talk to you when you're an idea on the back of a napkin, or is this someone who only wants to talk to you when you have 100,000 customers? I think that's important to know in terms of when. But in terms of the actual pitch itself, to me, a strong pitch is pretty transferable to any investor, in my opinion. I think a strong pitch has the same components for most people, and most investors are looking to hear the same things, which is nice because it's less work for the entrepreneurs.
Well, and then it also makes it consistent in terms of what you're teaching as well. That, you know, these are the key pieces that we're looking for. So I want to ask you a question about pieces of technology that either there's a couple ways I'm going to ask you this. The first way is, are there specific pieces of technology that you've seen, maybe they've come across your desk, people pitching, that are directed towards women that you think really would be beneficial? Or is there a certain technology that you would love to see out there? It doesn't even have to apply to women, but you know, if you were able to have one element that you're not seeing in your day-to-day that you could use, and if it's directed specifically, what would that be?
Anything around
the whole business right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I don't know. This might be a little bit more specific to women, but just anything around time management and contact management. I don't think anyone's doing it really, really well. I actually, you know, one of the courses I teach on Columbia, one of the modules I teach is all about time management and how to say no and how to network effectively. And I literally, every single semester, crowdsource out of, you know, hundreds of students, like, what are the apps you guys are using to manage your contacts effectively and to manage your time effectively? Still haven't gotten a good answer. Right? And so I think that's what's missing. I don't know if it's specific to women, but I would certainly love someone to come up with like a really, really effective way for me to, in a thoughtful way, reach out to my network and to actively engage them, and then just manage my time more effectively.
Okay, this is so timely, and this is so with all these students and you surveying them, did you get any that have to do with time management that you like?
That's the thing.
Not one?
I mean, I think a lot of people have come up with like specific ones, like a very specific use cases. So like Newsly, NEWSLE, is a great app, and it tells you anytime somebody in your network gets written about, they send you an email. And that way you get to say, hey, congratulations, I saw that you were written up in TechCrunch. And that's fantastic, and it's a great way to stay in contact. And so I certainly use bits and pieces, but for me it's like I'm still using a portfolio of things, and I guess I just want one. But maybe that doesn't exist yet. It's certainly not for me.
Well,
I mean, Evernote comes close for sure, but
to gathering
even easier to use than Evernote. Yeah.
Well, so I've been obsessed a little bit with Trello. I have a new obsession that they just announced. They changed it. So have you heard of Nimble? I'm like in love with Nimble.
I heard about it. Like, everyone keeps raving about it. I haven't played with it yet.
Let me explain it to you. So I'm telling you, like, I should work for the company. And I'm not kidding. So there are different elements of it. Like when you think about social selling, which it sounds like you kind of know this, like how to support people that might be in your network, or you hear them and they're reading about stuff and you want to tweet or re-engage them. This is a way of just bypassing every kind of CRM, even though they do work with Salesforce, and you can bypass even doing a lookup in Google. So they have this app now, and it's a Google app that sits on your Chrome on your nav bar, and I can highlight over anybody's name, and it will pull up every single component to their social stream. So I will be able to see.
Oh my goodness!
Every single thing. And then if I like that person, I just click on it. It automatically imports it into the Nimble CRM, and you can start to see like all of your messages with this person. And like they announce you. There are so many elements of it. Like you can.
Love it. I just wrote it down.
I'm on and on about it. But it's also interesting because I work with a group called She Says Boulder that they focus on women in technology and women that are creatives. And we've got like 600 women. These are all amazing designers, you name it. And for us to find out like I have clients looking for designers. It's so hard for me to find out like who are the right people that are in it, other than us like looking in LinkedIn or so when somebody cracks the code on that, like how do you actually go to your network?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I am absolutely with you when that happens. So when you figure out the time efficiency one, let me know.
I will let you know.
So since we're talking about this, is there any other secret weapon? Like, is there anything on your phone or something you use every day that?
Yeah. So for me, the one tool, and it might maybe not be the one that you were hoping for, but it's Get Some Headspace. It's a meditation app.
Get Some Headspace? I love it.
Yeah, it might just be Headspace. I think the URL is Get Some Headspace, but it's just Headspace, and it's a meditation app that takes you through guided meditations, and it also gives you kind of like reminders throughout the day to be present. That, and honestly, the most important thing for me on my phone is airplane mode, is that airplane mode button, and just turning it off and being like, I can't let emails come in. I just need to work for a little bit. Those are the two things that really work for me.
You know, and they both line up because they're both about giving you the ability to be centered. But what's really interesting is almost every single one of these conversations that I've had with, you know, these are like badass leaders, women leaders, and every single conversation comes to, at some point, how we are disconnecting. Like, how are we actually staying centered and letting go and all. So I really value that comes up every time, that there's some way that everyone's choosing to stay centered in the midst of the.
Yeah, I think it's important.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to take us back to. I want to just go into maybe one or two to-dos or to-don'ts if you are, one, seeking funding, and two, if you're the actual angel. So is there like a major, like if you were an entrepreneur, let's do entrepreneurs first. You're an entrepreneur and you want to get funding, or even if it's just grow your business, what's that number one to do, and what's the number one to don't?
I think the mistake is around timing of when they get funding. I just see way too many entrepreneurs either too early or too late. Too early, you waste a ton of time because you take 50 meetings. They all say no. They all say come back in 3 months. And then too late is they don't realize it takes 6 months to raise funding. And then by the time they start, they've already run out of money. And then they're desperate and they take a really, really incompatible deal. So to me, that's the biggest mistake, is just figuring out when to raise capital.
What is too early? Like, so it's like, is there a dollar amount threshold? Like, at what point do you need to see revenue in the door, or?
So it depends on the investor. We need to see proof of concept. It doesn't have to be revenue. A lot of the times it does correlate to revenue, but certainly proof of concept. You have to have demonstrated that consumers or businesses want whatever it is that you're offering. And certainly with B2B, oftentimes revenue is not needed, but with B2C, usually.
Interesting. So is there a to-don't if you're an entrepreneur?
Gosh, it's like,
I guess I was. I mean,
how do I pick just one?
Don't wait too long to make money, and don't make.
I know what it is. Don't accept maybe as an answer. Right? The worst answer you can get from an investor is actually maybe, right? No is a wonderful answer because you can walk away. And I see too many entrepreneurs accepting maybe from investors, and they string them along and they talk and it's not anyone's fault. Everyone hates to say no. Force people to say yes or no. I always joke, like, I hate the maybe button on Evite or the like tentative button on Outlook. Just stop using them. Don't allow other people to use them either.
I think that's fantastic. That is such great advice, because like, especially in sales, it's like, it's not a rejection. It's just, thank you very much. You just gave me the ability to just go on to the next person.
Exactly.
That's a great piece of advice. So if you were to say an absolute to-do for an angel or somebody that wants to become a new investor, what would that be?
I think leveraging your network for sure. 85% of the companies that we're invested in came from an investor that we're close to or an entrepreneur that we know very well. And so that's on the kind of deal sourcing side. On the diligence side, I see all these angels like reading books around like whatever topic they're investing in, or like going to all these conferences. Absolutely do those things because they're fun. but also leverage your network, right? I can, and I don't know anything about natural language processing, but I can put the entrepreneur in front of someone for an hour, see the questions they ask, and see how the entrepreneur responds, and just shortcut that. And I think that in the spirit of like maybe women not asking enough for help, I think there is a lot of like, I'm going to do it on my own. Don't, like, leverage that network.
And that's why being in an accelerator or an angel group, any of these things are such great resources.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally separate. Well, actually, the last question is really about how can we support you? And so this question kind of ties in with it. So I constantly find companies that are needing funding. So are there any specific pieces of deal flow? Like who do you like? And then how do they actually go about pitching you? Is it just an application online or?
Yeah, so there's an application online. Obviously, we take email referrals all the time as well. And I think for us, it would be, again, companies at the right stage. And so they have their proof of concept locked. And again, if it's B2C, we want to see $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in revenue. That's like a good stage for us. And if it's B2B, a handful to a dozen of really, really solid clients who it would be great if they have revenue, but if not, like letters of intent saying that when features A, B, and C get built, we will sign on for a 2-year contract at X dollars. Like that proof of concept needs to be there.
That's critical.
And then I'll be honest, our biggest ask is actually aspiring angel investors in the sense that we are trying to close the gender gap in the space. And so we're always looking for really smart women who maybe don't yet realize that they could be in this space. And that's really what we're looking for referrals for.
Ooh, I can definitely help you with that. Absolutely. And I know, like, I don't know if you've said this number, but I know your the personal goal, or one of the big goals of 37 Angels, is to go from the 13% to 50% of investors being women investors. So can I support you do you ever partner with any of the other women angel groups or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if partners the right, I mean, we're collaborative with them. They come to our events and we go to theirs. We haven't partnered yet, although it's something that I would like to do more of.
Okay.
I definitely would.
I have people for you. So we'll talk about that after at another point. But this was really so beneficial. I mean, even just getting the numbers for, what you look at, that information is not always out there. So I am incredibly appreciative that you made the time today, and want to thank you so much for coming, for coming digitally to this.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll say goodbye to you, and then I'll see you on the other side.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Thanks
So much.